I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome everybody. We're been in executive. I feel short. But that's okay. And we'll go ahead and get started. And obviously we have a full house, which is always great to see folks here. And with our new agendas, there we go. Modifications to the agenda for tonight.
I have just one to offer, a supplemental personnel report dated today. If we could add that to the consent.
Without objection.
The supplemental.
There we go. And so without objection, and we'll move on to the public comment period. And Chris, I'll get that.
I apologize. Shirley Kennedy.
Good evening. I'm Shirley Kennedy, Ithaca High School English teacher, and I'm here to report to you that we just today finished giving the first Common Core English Regents to 350 students in the gym alone, not counting the students in other locations. The new Regents has 24 multiple choice questions. It has an argument essay, and then it has a text analysis essay. We will have over 1,000, and each of them have to be graded twice. We will have over 1,440 essays to grade this week. And despite the fact that the last proctor left his students at 6:36 today, many of the English department are here, and I'd like to thank them for being here. The board is, I think all of you have been elected since I've been coming to the board meetings and since I have been coming to the question period where you have questions, before you get elected. And I think probably those of you who are on the board for a lengthy period of time know what my question always is at those meetings. My question is, would you be willing to have a non-voting teacher representative on the board the way you have non-voting student representatives? And you know the answers that you've given to me. I won't embarrass you publicly by repeating them, but I'm wondering if the policy committee has moved, because I really think that if we could be at the table also, it would be a help. Thank you.
Augustine.
Good evening. My name is Ludy Augustine. I'm a teacher at Ithaca High School. I am also a voting taxpayer and the parent of 2 young children who attend the Ithaca City School District. As a teacher, I'm very concerned with the number of my colleagues who have been leaving for surrounding districts, better pay, or leaving the profession altogether because the pay does not compensate for the amount of work and dedication that this profession entails. We've heard the numbers disputed on several occasions. We know that our new teacher salaries are among the lowest, that our median teacher salaries are among the lowest, and if you stay for 25 years or more, you are in, yes, the 2nd percentile of the state. As a taxpayer, I am painfully aware of how high our school taxes are, and my question is, why then are our teacher salaries among the lowest in the state? And as a parent, I am very concerned about teachers staying and retaining the high-quality teachers that we currently have. My daughters this year have teachers who have been teaching 20-plus years, and the breadth of their knowledge about childhood development, strategies for teaching, and the creativity and enthusiasm that they bring are inspiring, and that is who I want to continue to teach my children, and I expect all of you would feel the same if you do and have had or will have children in the district. So I encourage you to make our salaries competitive, and I encourage you to continue our benefits, because we need to attract and retain quality teachers to this district to retain the high level of education that we provide for our students. Thank you.
a mother. I came to Ithaca from New York City, taking a job that was basically $10,000 less, but I was willing to do it for the cost of a better education, a better life for my child, and to make a difference. Not only my own children, but the children that I work with. I believe in giving everything, my time, my enthusiasm with my kids in my classroom as well as my home. I think that I want everyone to know that these teachers are not here for money, just for money. They love what they're doing. And if the state requires that we earn a master's, while as other professions they don't, then why can't this wonderful board and this wonderful place that I decided to come and live, why can't you respect our teachers and give them what they deserve?
Severi Driggs.
Hi, I'm Severin Driggs. I teach at Ithaca High School. I've been there for over 40 years. And I'm going to keep it brief. It's just one thing. When the numbers that you've seen that the ITA has put out about how Ithaca teacher salaries compare to others in the area and in the state, a couple of weeks ago, an Ithaca Journal article about the issue, a board member said, "Oh, that's not true. We have different information." All I'm saying is if you have different information, cite your sources, show where that's coming from. Don't just make a statement like that. Because that's no better than Donald Trump saying our president was not born in the United States. He's sure of that, but he won't provide any evidence. If you have numbers, provide the evidence. You don't want to be in that sort of company. Thank you.
Sarah Shank.
I am Sarah Shank. I teach at Ithaca High School. That's the pleasure of having so many children in my classes. And I've come here with students who are nervous to speak. I feel a little bit of that myself at the moment. I am a teacher as a labor of love. I love my job. I love when I go in the classroom and close the door, there is no better job in the world. And I would imagine most of my colleagues would agree with that. We have had to jump through many hoops in recent years, and it's becoming less fun in some ways, but the essential job is fabulous. And I would say I have world-class colleagues. We have great students. But what's happening in Ithaca right now is really hard. It's hard to watch colleagues leaving. People that I love to teach with, people who I respect, teachers who have been here for a long time, who are making a calculation. And I hope you are concerned when we, as teachers, are making a calculation that says, can I afford to teach in Ithaca? That is there something wrong with my self-respect? If I went somewhere else, and I'm at a point in my career that it will make a difference the rest of my life. That's true for everyone. But as I watch people making those calculations, I think, should I be looking? Should I be applying? I don't want to leave Ithaca. I love Ithaca. But I hope that you are troubled by that's the conversation people are having. And I did 2 terms on Common Council. I sat where you're sitting in negotiations, and I know it's not easy. And I know that you have to balance the needs of the taxpayers and the needs of the students and the needs of the teachers. Many of us are taxpayers. But for me, with the city of Ithaca, what was clear at the end of the day is the city of Ithaca was the workers. There was no city of Ithaca without them. And I would say to you the teachers, the paras, the support staff, we are Ithaca District. There is nothing without us.
Here, here.
Getting a fair salary, being able to see that we are paid competitively matters. And if morale goes down, that's corrosive to a work environment. That's where it feels like we are. So I would encourage you to do what you can to address those issues and communicate to us that you want to address those issues, that you value us, that you respect us, and that you want to make it a great place to work. Thanks.
Emily Groff.
Hi, good evening. Emily Guro, Bell Sherman, 3rd grade. Please let me share our vision. It's an adaptation of ICSD's own vision. We envision 600 dedicated teachers. Teaching is foundational to the future of our children and the survival of society. It is the cornerstone of sparking curiosity, engaging minds, supporting struggles, celebrating successes, and cultivating dreams. Our vision is for the city, for the Ithaca City School District Administration and Board to heed the call of teachers for respectable, fair, and livable wages. Teaching motivates us. Whereas your vision is audacious, ours is a conscious demand for our fundamental human right to live with dignity and decency. Where is the dignity and respect for teachers who put in 8 to 10 hours a day at school and then bring home more schoolwork and yet still can't make ends meet? In my own small household, my 2 teenage daughters have to work to help me, a single mom, support our family. You said you value your teachers. Now I'm respectfully asking you to walk the talk. Fair contract now.
Chris Carver.
Hi, my name is Chris Carver. I teach in the high school. I'm here to talk on the theme of the contract, which has been very articulately, talked about before me. I'll just add briefly my situation. I've been teaching in Ithaca for 6 years, and I love to teach in this community. And I put my resume together for the first time as a result of my New Year's resolution to sort of reevaluate where I am, and it was really hard to do. I was hired with 12 other people. We were trained over the summer together, and I'm one of the only ones that are left. There's a picture of everybody else on my wall, which is another hard thing to look at every day. It's very difficult to teach in this district. Our pay is significantly lower than surrounding communities, not by hundreds of dollars or even thousands, but by like $10,000 or more for my friends that have left and gone to places like Lansing or Union Springs. Combined with the cost of living in this town, which we all love, it puts us between a rock and a hard place. And I think if it's not addressed, it sends the school district down a really troubling path because it is too hard to work in.
Thank you.
Helen Pearl.
Hi. Just to lighten the mood for a minute. I got my keys back, thank you, Susan, but apparently, Rebecca, your purse is over here by the door. Thank you! I said, when I have my chance, I'll tell you so. Math at the high school. Also, we're in the middle of rolling out the Common Core. We're almost done, we're not quite done. During the next few days, we're gonna give both Common Core and old style exams. We keep thinking we're done. We're not quite done. I think we've got 2 more years, and then it'll be only Common Core, and we won't be having our poor kids take 2 geometry regents exams, which has been a lot of work for the kids and for the teachers. So, but that's what the thing I came to talk about was that I was not completely sure that the board knew that we in fact are having trouble filling our positions. I don't know if you know that this is not a theory but a reality. We have the algebra, we have the, for math, we have a position for the spring maternity leave, and we got 1 applicant. For the fall, last fall, we had 3 openings. We had 5 applicants. I just want to say we're extraordinarily happy with the people we got. I feel very lucky, but I don't know how much longer that luck is going to last. I thought maybe it was a math thing, like nobody wants to do math teacher, it's too hard. Turns out that special ed, I think, has 4 positions. 4 openings, 4 and unfilled. They've got 4 openings, one, and there's 2 science. There's no chemistry teacher for next Monday. We don't have anybody. The people are not applying. We used to screen. You know, you'd go through this whole process. There's no point in screening. There's nobody there. You open up the folders, they're empty. I just wanted you to know. I know, I worry about it a lot, and I wasn't actually sure that that was something that the board knew was not something in the future, but is really right here, right now, Monday. So that's it. Yeah.
Chris Bell.
My name is Chris Bell. I'm a first grade teacher at Fall Creek, and I want to comment on something I imagine most people in the room understand, but maybe some of you don't, is the amount of time teachers put in beyond the contractual day. A few years ago, I decided to tally the number of contractual hours that I worked, the number of hours I worked beyond the contractual day. So I started on June 24th at 2:10, which was the last day, and I kept tally all through the year until June 24th, 7:30 a.m. I kept track of the time I worked on school material, planning, emailing, classroom organizing, preparation, shopping, over the summer, on weekends during the school year, and any other time before 7 a.m. and after 2 p.m. on school days. I didn't count any contractual meetings or any additional work I had paid for or credit hours. But before I give you the numbers, I want to make something clear. I didn't work these hours begrudgingly. I worked them because I love my job, I love teaching, I love the kids that I work with and the families that send them my way. There are times in the evening when my wife and I belly laugh as I tell her something that one of the kids said that day, or there are evenings when I have tears running down my cheeks as I describe something a 6-year-old has no right to have to endure in their life. In every profession, there are committed, dedicated, and passionate workers, and in every profession, there are so-so workers. I would submit that more often than not, teachers are the former. They end many evenings emailing a parent, creating a paper, planning a lesson, getting out of bed to jot down a late night epiphany of how the next day's lesson will go better. And they end many evenings belly laughing or teared up. We don't expect recognition or thanks for the belly laughs or the tears. That's why we teach. We do hope, though, that all of the other reasons that our evenings and early mornings and weekends become extensions of a workday will be acknowledged and appreciated by the board. So after telling the extra hours, the time I put in for that full year, contractual time plus the extra hours, it came out to just about right on 52 40-hour work weeks. So it was the equivalent of 52 weeks of 8-hour days with weekends off, but no holidays, no summer vacation. I just wanted to present that as a perspective for you to think about. Yes.
Thank you.
Catherine Sanera.
Hi, I'm Catherine Sanera. I work at Hewitt Middle School, and I'm here kind of to talk about recruitment and retention, but really to talk about family. So this summer, my brother-in-law was offered his dream job to work in the Ithaca City School District. He had been working pretty much his entire life since coming to Ithaca for that job. And when he was offered that job, and he accepted very happily, and then he went into his HR meeting to find out what his contract would be. When he put the job that he was offered in the Ithaca City School District up against his job in the Syracuse School District that he would be leaving, between his student loan payoffs that he would be giving up and the salary cut that he would be taking to come here. He chose to stay in Syracuse because a $12,000 pay cut was unacceptable to him. I also want to talk about the fact that for anyone who's ever had the pleasure of working at DeWitt Middle School is a family. We support each other, we love each other, we care for each other. I have never worked anywhere else. I have never wanted to work anywhere else. However, my special ed teacher is considering her options. My AIS teacher is considering her options. My other 7th grade teacher is considering his options. And just this weekend, I started looking at considering my options, because if my family leaves me, I need to leave too. Thank you.
Kate Gaffel.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kate Gaffel, and this is my 13th year teaching chemistry at the high school. Helen actually mentioned the 2 vacancies in science that we have because we need long-term subs. One of them is one of my colleagues who's going out on maternity leave, and as Helen said, as of Monday, we really don't have a teacher for the 90 students that she teaches in chemistry. Now, there may be somebody we can get who is not certified, and I guess in a crisis, that's what we'd have to do. But then think about that, because those of us who have been there a long time will need to support that teacher who is heading into a difficult situation, not being familiar with the curriculum or anything, any of the supplies or materials or the district. And so I'm sure that we'll be called upon to help out very often. The other thing I want to say, that's the short-term crisis, but the long-term crisis is the erosion of teaching staff. One of the things that has been my greatest pleasures of working in Ithaca is the caliber of my esteemed colleagues. And if, one by one, they have to seek employment elsewhere just to make ends meet, I'm envisioning a very different school district, one that may not, be something that any of us would like to send children to, one that is not worthy of Ithaca as a very education-oriented town. So I don't think anybody here expects a quick fix, but we need to know that, the board would support a long-term vision to, reinstate the reputation of Ithaca as a premier district in the country. And that has got to be accompanied by, a good salary for the teachers we're trying to attract and retain. So please consider that strongly. Thank you.
Brian Goodman.
Hi, I'm Brian Goodman. I teach 5th grade at Enfield. I've been there, this is my 6th year there. When I was hired 6 years ago, I asked my principal at the time, what do I teach? What is there for me to teach? And he said, everyday math, that's a canned curriculum that our district had purchased. And we have this framework called Daily 5. And it was somewhat easy for me, a teacher transplanted from somewhere else, to come in and teach right off the shelf. In the past years, you, the board, you, our superintendent, have supported this great curricular development where I've spent maybe 75 hours of my time over the past 2 years getting trained on writing curriculum. This is curriculum we just implemented in our classrooms. So boy, that's like a lot of money in the bank that's getting spent to train many teachers, not just me, maybe upwards of 60 now are getting trained multiple hours. So that's an investment that you're making. And boy, we worked our butts off this year to get that curriculum off the ground, and we worked our butts to get publicity for it. So now, not only are there issues talking in the paper about our contracts and about things like that, but there's actually this great momentum for work that we've invested in. And I hear teachers saying, this is great work, we're excited about it, but one of my colleagues who's doing this curriculum work is leaving. boy, that's 75 hours of training for her down the drain. Forget about that, that's done. So if we have lots of new teachers coming in, our training them, they say, what do I teach? And you can say, well, you can write your own curriculum for a couple of years and implement it in your classroom. And these aren't really available online for you to just download. You really need to invest it in yourself because it belongs to your school. What's a teacher going to do with that? This is a great thing, but we need the invested teachers to develop this curriculum, to teach this curriculum, and to do it year after year and build upon it and be masters. On our team, boy, the leaders of that were Carolyn Bell Abbott, Chris Barley, who've been teaching for decades, have lots of experience, who can really guide that work. So I feel like what I'm trying to say is you're asking for like master level work for us, and we're giving it to you, and we're enthusiastic, but it's not going to work if we have retention problems and we're getting first-year teachers in many every year. The second thing I want to say is if you look around this room, you have teachers whose reputation precedes them. I hear people talking about Miss Lanfear. I hear people, friends of my son's talking about Miss Ronan. I hear people talking about Miss Tesseroro. I hear people talking about veterans of this district. We have so much institutional memory, but I gotta be honest, it's in the teaching staff. It is not in the board. It is not in the administration. I don't mean that as an insult, but you guys are newcomers. Overall, we have incredible institutional memory. I can't imagine that 600 people could be wrong. I just can't imagine it. It feels like we're right. It feels like we're right. We have not one teacher stood up and said, you know, this is not right, guys. We're not doing the right thing. People are here to speak the right thing. We have so much wisdom. I feel just some acknowledgement that, you know what, I hear what you guys are saying. You're doing the right thing. We just can't find a way to make this work. I just feel I haven't heard that. I feel I've heard teachers aren't in the right. So I feel that's my second thing, that we have so much great institutional wisdom. Something must be happening here.
Jeremy Smith. I'm sorry.
Chris is just trying to read what is right in front of him, so please go ahead.
You know, this is the first time I've spoken to the board. 27 years in the district, never felt the need, and certainly do now. Parent, taxpayer, teacher, community member. And when I first heard all of this stuff, I thought, well, you know, people had anecdotes here and tales there and this story here. And I'm skeptical. So I thought, well, okay, let me do some homework. And the information is quite easy to get, let me tell you. Once I first figured out, especially how to get the information for teachers who have left recently, because that is not on See Through New York yet. You have to actually, and if any of you want to help me, because I've already got a few, but it is time consuming and I'd rather do something else. Google in the name, make sure you spell it accurately, find out the district, spell that right too, and then just 2 words, board minutes, and it'll pop up. And you'll see what was stated at the meeting. You know, it's a 1.0, whatever, and the current salary. So I have that for about 5 people here. And I'm not going to read it publicly because I don't think that's fair. But let me just give you some summary information. All right, poor person who got the worst deal only got a 12% increase. All right, and we're talking about $7,000. Then I go to the top person. This person really, really did well. 30% with a $14,000 plus a few extra dollars increase. And then there are a few in between. So if we want to, you know, throw out the outliers of 12% and 30%, you got 16, 18, somewhere in there. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. And when we moved here to Ithaca, we paid a premium for our home. And you know what? That's because of the school system. That's right. Our children, I wanted our kids to go to school here. Not the neighboring communities, not Elmira, where my husband worked at the time, here. The house there in Elmira, $100,000 less at least. Here, had to pay a premium, we sacrifice. It's just like any budget, and this is what I don't get with the budget either. There's revenue and then there are expenditures. And if I can't afford it, I can't buy it, I can't get it. So obviously we had to make sacrifices to make the payments to live here. And when I look, you know, there were $23 million that were in reserve. And we keep hearing, I have to look this up all the time, about the GEA, state aid, because I've been watching some of the board minutes. And I'm thinking, okay, well maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. It's not. Every district in this state had the problem with the GEA, including our neighboring communities that are on the graph, with Lansing being way up on the top. Then I look at state aid. Well, we don't get as much, and that's absolutely true. We look at ourselves compared to, for example, Trumansburg, big difference. Why? Because we have a tax base. That was meant so that the poorer districts also have good educators. How are we so low is my question. I just don't get it. And that's why I'm here.
Maggie New.
Hello, my name is Maggie New. I am an Ithaca High School teacher. I teach AVID, and I'm a coordinator for Link Crew. I have taught in Ithaca for 8 years. This is my 12th year teaching in my 3rd district. My first one was up in the North Country, and I made a little over 30. And then I went to my alma mater and I taught for 3 years. And then I got engaged, and my husband got a job in Owego, and we needed to find a spot. I got a job at Union Endicott, and we wanted to look at other places. Ithaca's always been home for my family. So I applied here, I got a job. It was a $5,000 difference between Union Endicott and here, but we decided this is where we were gonna make our home. And I was okay with that, because I thought it would pay off, it would add up. 2 kids later, student loans, okay? At Union Endicott, and I think the other part with surrounding districts, I was going to get loan forgiveness because we perform so well here. I don't qualify for student loan forgiveness. So every month I pay a check for my student loans, where at my other districts, Lansing, I had a job offer, I would have qualified. Union Endicott, qualified. Canastota, qualified. Here I don't. And I understand that that's my choice and I stay. But I stay because I love my job. I love this community. I have 2 little boys, and I love the fact that they are part of this big family. I want to stay here. However, when I've watched 3 people leave the AVID program, and I look to think, this is a really hard program to maintain when I don't have people that are lifers and people that want to build. And I look at Link Crew and I think I need to be able to foster a community of leadership among my staff. And I can't do that because the morale is low. And when I look at my own department for special ed, and we have 3 positions right now that are open, and I have kids that have co-taught services that, not being done by a certified teacher. As a colleague, that's frightening. As a parent, I would be concerned. And I know, I've seen various of you out in the community, and I know that you are invested in the community. I think what we need to hear as a union, as teachers, as colleagues, that you are invested in us, that you value us, that we are worth it. I have sat here and listened to you praise this district, praise the kids, the programs, the staff. And now it's getting to the bare bones where people are making choices. They're moving, they're taking different jobs, they're leaving. I don't need to tell you that if I go through and think about my resume. I mean, that seems a common thing here. You'd be crazy not to think about it. Make us want to be here. Make us want to stay. Tell us that we are worth it. Because we believe our kids are worth it, our programs are worth it, our schools are worth it, our colleagues. I think we need to hear from you that you believe that we are worth it and that you will work with us to make it happen.
That's everyone that signed up. Opportunity for those to speak who did not sign up.
Hi, I'm Mary Darcy Martin. I'm a special ed teacher at Virginia, and I just want to piggyback on something that you had said. We had actually gone through October till October without a special ed teacher servicing our young students. We had IEPs, which are legal documents which secure their rights and access to services, and they hadn't had them for almost 2 months. because we couldn't find anyone that wanted to take that position. There was nobody in the pool. And I was on the interview committee, and it was like, there were just a couple of people, and they came with little experience. It was really difficult to find someone. Now, at this point, we do have someone, and I just hope she stays. But she's young, she's new, and I hear all these other people talking about competitive salaries, and I don't know what her future brings. But as a colleague servicing students with special service needs, I was really uncomfortable and kind of outraged that we didn't have services for these younger kids, kindergarten and first grade students, for 2 months. And I would hate to see a repeat of that come the next school year. It sounds like it's very ambiguous as what the future holds for our district and having teachers come and stay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm a parent of a second grader in Ithaca City School District. My family moved here a little over a year and a half ago. And like most parents, when we moved, the number one question was, where's my kid going to go to school? We didn't know Ithaca would have come from out of state. We talked to a lot of people, we did a lot of research. And I found very quickly that I didn't have to worry, like in other places where I had lived, big cities, small towns, that there was only one school that I could feel okay about, or 2 schools that I could feel okay about my child going to. I learned very quickly that in Ithaca, there were 4 and 5 and 6 fantastic elementary schools that I could feel comfortable. We've been here a year and a half. My child has had a beautiful experience in the Ithaca City School District. I come here tonight out of concern to try and learn, and what I've learned has made me really angry. I don't understand why we aren't competitive. I don't understand why it's not unequivocally clear to our teachers that they matter most, that they are the heart of our district, that it is unacceptable that we might lose them. It's alarming. My child's going to be in this district, I hope, for a long time. We've learned a lot. There are studies about children going to school under stress, children whose lives are unstable because of insecurity, and what that does to their education. What I'm hearing tonight tells me that we have teachers who are under stress. What does that mean for our children if our teachers have insecurity? I don't think that's acceptable. And as a parent, I demand more information. I want to understand what the roadblocks are, and I expect to find out how we can solve them. I'm willing to work. Teachers clearly are willing to work. We have to meet them where they are.
One more time, anyone else? We're going to hear from students. Ithaca High School.
Sure, okay, thank you. Last Thursday, after school, Professor Chris Schaefer from Cornell University, came by to give a talk about Alzheimer's and how his department is trying to find treatment. And he was actually talking about how a new medicine is actually in development as a way to fight the disorder and actually prevent it from occurring. And H courtyard was actually overflowing with students, and everybody left a little smarter. And this Friday, after school, the Ithaca varsity boys will have a swim meet where they face off against their rival Horseheads. And afterwards, they're going to have a party to commemorate the 4 seniors and to remember their time on the team.
As I'm sure you all know, for Ithaca High School, in a couple of years, we're right in the thick of midterms and exams, which thankfully for us, me personally, means a little bit more time relaxing, not so much time in school, only have a few exams, that's good. But I think we'd like to extend an appreciation and a thank you to the teachers who will spend hours grading our exams. I mean, it's stressful enough to sit through a 3-hour exam, but to have to grade all of them must be terrible. So, we're hoping to get through midterms thanks to our teachers, and we hope all the students will do well. Additionally, we had yesterday the Swiss Club, Strong Women Impacting Society, took a trip to Albany to support the Planned Parenthood Day of Action. They met with Barbara Lifton, which is excellent. There were lots of celebratory Instagram and Facebook posts, which I enjoyed seeing. And they also, those club members that could not go to New York, got to talk with Amanda Verba and Lily Coyle about Women in Power, have a lovely discussion. So it was a very productive week meeting for that club.
Next Friday and Saturday at Epic College, there is the Senior High Area All-State event taking place for band and orchestra, and we just want to extend congratulations to all the students selected and their teachers. And Thursday, February 11th, we have a Link Crew-sponsored blood drive at the high school that is taking place all day in activities. And if board members are interested in donating, they can email the Link Crew coordinator, Maggie New. And then over the past couple weeks, high school band members have signed up to participate in an annual tradition. During their free time in Regents Week, high schoolers can play in bands sitting alongside younger students, or they can sign up to teach middle schoolers at Boynton and DeWitt. And this is a great opportunity for middle schoolers to learn from their future peers and gain motivation to continue with music. And that is all we have for you tonight.
Thanks, LACS.
So as you heard, it's nice to have the week off of classes. At LACS, that means that we're doing mid-year conferences, meeting with kind of our staff mentor, and talking about how we did this semester and then our plans for next semester. Juniors took the ELA Regents, part of our alternative teaching philosophy is the idea that standardized testing doesn't really help the student or the teacher. So we are exempt from all Regents except for the ELA, and we have long-term plans to hopefully get exempt from the ELA as well. So that's we always, it's weird shifting from our normal education 2 weeks beforehand, having to do the ELA prep, but, we get it done and we have good scores usually. So on Monday, we have an infusion day. So this is an annual event LACS does, where we take the day off from classes and we focus on a theme or issue to learn, have the students learn and think about. So this year we're focusing on race, culture, and ethnicity. And we have a keynote presentation, and then we break out into workshops with leaders, people doing presentations within the community. So we have students presenting, we have teachers presenting, and we also have community members, including Sean. So thank you for doing that. So you guys can come out and check it out, but those are always engaging experiences. So that's that.
Great, thank you. Board responses at this point, anyone? Care to respond to anything that you might have heard so far? Go ahead, Jen.
Where do I start? Thank you for coming out. I think your stories are relevant and meaningful and important, and it's nice to see all of you here. And I think that, I can't speak for the board, but I can certainly say that you're valued, and no, we don't hate teachers. So that stuff is, I don't know, just a little inflammatory. It wasn't his song. We changed things. But thank you for coming out. I think your personal stories really make a difference, and I think that hearing them for me is great and familiar, especially the grading stuff. I'm glad it's not me. So again, thank you.
Anyone else? Brad, go ahead.
Sure. I'm also glad folks came out. It's our understanding that we're on the verge of an agreement at this point, so hopefully we'll be hearing that shortly, so that'll be wrapped up for this year. But I appreciate hearing your stories. The idea that we don't appreciate teachers, I don't get. We hear from teachers all the time who come make presentations here. Mr. Goodman was here recently on one. I think we were pretty complimentary about your work and appreciative of what you were doing, and we are often when you're here. But I think Sarah brought up, you called it a balancing act at a recent public meeting. I suggested to everybody we're in the same leaky boat together. Let's remember we're both taxpayers, and in your case, receiving some of the benefits of those taxes. And it's a tough balancing act, and we're all in that leaky boat together. And appreciate that you're in a tough spot. Hope you appreciate we're in a tough spot in working on that back and forth. It's why they call it collective bargaining. It's so that it happens collectively, and that's how the process works and how it goes forward. It doesn't have to be contentious necessarily, but there are tough issues, and it takes time to work those out. But I don't want anybody to think that you're not appreciated because it took an extra 6 or 7 months to get this contract hammered out. That doesn't mean you're not appreciated. It means there's a lot of issues, and it takes time. And you know, your bargaining team had to work hard too, had to put in a lot of hours on it, and they've also got teaching positions and other things to do, and so they're pulled away on the bargaining side. So the things do take time. You should say thank you to them as well for what they do and the time they put in to get an agreement in the end. So. Don't know why you don't think you're not appreciated. I hope we express it every time. I follow many of you on Twitter. I retweet many of the things I see that are, you know, very interesting, fascinating things that go on in the district, and we appreciate all those efforts.
Other responses, anyone?
I'll just kind of ditto the same thing. It's really appreciate all that you do. I've received my kids have really, you know, have gone through the system and going through the system. I really do appreciate all the teaching, all the passion, all the community, and all the things that go into it, and also the difficulty and the challenges of the job. So.
Other, Chris, go ahead.
Actually, I really want to echo what everyone says. You folks are very much appreciated, and it's very disheartening for things to get this contentious. And actually, I sit up here feeling bad because I realize that when these things happen, we lose sight of people, you know, and that's really both ways. You know, when words like "why do you hate teachers" and things like that go up, it's we don't hate anyone, you know. And my hopes are for things to progress and actually moving forward be more transparent, more unified, where we can work together as a community. And that's what I've always felt. I think transparency is the best case scenario for all of us, so you understand it's not easy being at this side of the table, and we have obligations to everyone, and we, you know, you can't please everybody, and I don't say that belittlingly. Everyone has somebody pulling at their coattails saying, you need to do this. And so we need to balance that act. But I really don't want to be back in this place where we have people feeling undervalued and disrespected. And I hope we can move forward in a respectful manner. I hope, you know, both sides of the fence can be considerate and share information in a way and in a manner that benefits instead of causes. Thank you very much.
It's not mine.
No, you're fine.
There were no words to
But
that.
I really, I've heard what everybody said, and I take it to heart. And I really want to really resonate with you guys, the respect factor, and I hope the information that's shared moving forward is correct, it's accurate, and it's respectful.
Thanks, Chris. Sean, go ahead.
One of the things about being a board member that's fantastic is I get a number of invitations to speak at places. I think I get that in general no matter what. But last week I had the absolute privilege of being at DeWitt Middle School for a little bit more than a half a day in Mr. Pritz's class, and I was nothing short but astounded by what I witnessed in that classroom. the depth of student questions, the way in which they were pushing. We were talking about Black Lives Matter, to have 7th graders talking about such a serious topic and asking me questions. And I think I left that day and wrote some notes to folks saying, it reminds me of why we live in this community. And I teach college every day, but those students ask me much smarter questions than my college students did. And that's the truth, and that's a testament to what takes place in the classroom. I'm delighted to go at ACS on Monday to help participate in their infusion day around notions of race and education. And so I get pretty regularly to be out into the fields and to the classrooms. And I should say, as a former ITA member, as a former teacher in this district for a number of years, I can very much appreciate what folks are discussing and talking about. So it's painful on one hand to hear colleagues and folks that I know tell these stories, but I also know it's where we find ourselves both in this community and nationally. Well, I will say, because it's my immediate reaction was to sit here and try to defend and deflect and sort of say a couple things like, how do I hate teachers, right? Like, how do I hate myself? My primary identity is an educator, as a teacher, right? Like many folks, we think ourselves as being teachers. And so it's tough as Chris to be on this side of the table when that's not where my primary identity is. I know Jen and I have had this conversation about using we, of the language of we when talking about teachers pretty regularly in that regard. But what I just want to say is that the ways in which folks shared today is extremely appreciated. Not just what you do, but what you shared today. Hope that makes sense. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Elder, care to weigh in? And as Eldred is speaking, was thinking, thinking of speaking, Pat and Moyer are out today, so we are a board of 7.
Difficult.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me start by echoing what Sean said, then I can get through a couple of sentences and maybe gain some momentum. There are about 6 people in this room whose classes I participated in, working with those kids. It's a fairly remarkable experience. I think you would be surprised at the experiences of the people around this table. We might appear to be something now because we dress in fancy suits, right? And we have these vocabularies and we have the education. But at least half the people here, if you got us in a private room over tea, we tell you our lives were saved by teachers. Not our futures, our lives. When I had the opportunity to make a decision to join the board, it was because we understood that we could bring our talent to the complexity of these issues. Make no mistake, we understand the role we play in this community. We understand that we're unique in how we toe the line that keeps your housing values at a certain rate. Understand and appreciate that with this intelligence comes the understanding that we don't assess your housing value. Right? There's an entire different community function led by the county that increasingly ups the assessment of your houses. Make no mistake that we understand what we're asking you to do, which is why some of us here have been pushing the performance, the professional development. We've, in previous contracts, offered a basic equation: more money for more time. We know you need more time. We know the kids need more time. We understand to get the professional development done. We need more time. Some previous contracts, that's been quid pro quo. We were offering what we thought, given the finances, was a competitive rate to make some of that happen. But for a group as articulate and as impassioned as you just presented to us, to walk away from this room thinking that this is a community that hates teachers, that doesn't like unions, right, and that we personally have some kind of animus against you, would do us all a disservice. 600 and some odd professionals, we understand the meaning of teaching and we understand the nature of education. We have someone on the board who's actually studied the uniqueness of our district, and that we have lots of kids with 2-parent families who might both have patents, right, who are authors. We have kids whose mothers are coming up from Brooklyn. They're happy that nobody's going to be shooting at their child the next day. And then we have a very unique situation in the rural poverty kids. And we actually, I'm going to say this up front, we haven't exactly cracked the code. Right? We haven't cracked that code on how to deliver and experience those children on a regular basis. And the graduation rates will reflect some of the things with that group in special ed. So please walk away from this room understanding that there's no mystery, there's no magic, there's no evil that's any happening on our side of the table. We have 100% of a thing. The teachers currently occupy over 70-some-odd% of that thing. Our conversations are about how to make this work, right? And we're getting to the point now, honestly, where we're not sure what else there is that's going to create that large enough nut to meet your needs and to satisfy the outlook that you all presented tonight. Right? We've tried. We floated some balloons. We floated some large solution-based balloons that would free up the millions of dollars it would take in order to get people's salaries up to, let's say competitive, for lack of a better word. So I invite you to come in and learn. I invite all of you to understand there's no, we're not little people behind a green curtain here, right? We're human beings who have kids who are going to this district. Education, like I said, is the primary reason most of us are here in these positions. Is there anyone who hasn't had multiple kids go to the district sitting at this table? I doubt it. Right? So bear with us. I think we have this one under the table. I'm looking forward to possibly being elected in May so I can go through the process of getting the next one done. And I know how hard I work to get the student voice and the student experience and the student opportunity and the student expression, the student results elevated in the conversation over the last 6 years. It feels like this is a moment in time where we need to think about the same thing for teachers, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
Can I just respond to that? If I don't know if this is protocol or not, but I may just say one word. First of all, thank you. No, I
He said
can't?
no.
He said no. All right.
He said no.
Thank you.
Glad to,
We're not allowed.
you can still say. Glad to have you do that a little bit later.
I may or I may not.
We'll come back to you, and
I
this.
just wanted to thank him because I think this is.
I think you're probably welcome.
I'm out of-
But you can, if you want to continue your thank you, you can, as long as you don't go on to other subjects. So go ahead and thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you for acknowledging the problem. That's all I want to say. Thank you so much. And I appreciate what you do. Believe me, I don't know how you put in the time. It's crazy. All of you. That's
So,
it. I'm done.
no, thank you, appreciate it. And I guess, well, I guess I'm the only one that hasn't spoken yet, so I guess I'll speak. I pretty much come at this position as serving on the board from the, well, frankly, the student perspective. And I guess since everybody's talking their bios, my father was a class of 38 at Ithaca High School. I'm class of 74. My son was class of 2010. I was a third-generation dairy farmer on West Hill for 21 years, so I fully understand what it's like to be underpaid and underappreciated. The property taxes that I paid on our small farm were, I never made as much money as my tax bill for 21 years. So I was a small business owner, and eventually, after 21 years, it became obvious to my wife that I needed to do something else. And so I did something else, and with all that free time on my hands, after not having to work 7 days a week for 21 years, and summertime is the busy time for farmers, and no vacations and all that. So I had to change jobs, and because I had all that free time, why not serve on the Board of Education? So, I was encouraged to do that, and so I have been doing that for a while. It's been a privilege to be a part of the district in this capacity. It's as I've said publicly several times, it's the most rewarding work I've ever done, and it's all volunteer. I do get paid to do another job that I wear a suit, but this is, I'm more than happy to go to a meeting, show up wherever I need to show up,
Other board members are very active coming into the classroom. I have a little less flexibility that way because I do have to try to make up for 21 years when I didn't make any money. So I do have to show up for work, and I have responsibilities. You know, it's frustrating on our side, certainly. You know, as I've said, you know, I don't sit in negotiations. We're part of it. We consult, but we have to basically not really comment regarding the negotiations. Can't really say what our side is, or so I'm more than happy to do comparatives and get as much information as out. We try really to get as much information out regarding the budget process as we can. The GEA is real. That's been, you know, $21 million and counting has been sucked out of this district. That's a lot of salary. That's a lot of benefits over the last 5 years. 5 years, $21 million in state aid that was designated for this district that did not arrive in our bank account. So the tax levy limit, that other thing that we have to deal with, starts at 0.12 this year. Inflation is essentially zero. So we're going to start from that point trying to figure out how to do this budget. And the governor, in his infinite wisdom, foundation aid in his executive budget has frozen foundation aid yet again. So, and Elder spoke to it. You know, salaries, benefits. That's the vast majority of our budget, and so we're trying to figure out how to make it all work. But coming from a student perspective, that's the way I always think of this. Really, it's trying to maintain programming, trying to maintain as many jobs as we can, and try to make it all work. And our jobs, meaning our outstanding teachers, you know. I'm a product of this district. I had an opportunity to do a different job after being on the farm 21 years. Hadn't taken a test in 21 years, and having to go and, okay, I had an education because of Ithaca High School, because of, yes, Cornell, but didn't get to Cornell because of, you know, I had to have Ithaca High School to get to Cornell. Kindergarten on through Ithaca High. Tremendous experience. It was glory days of Ithaca High School in the early 70s, I can guarantee you. But it was 600 kids in the class. We were rocking. It was a place to be. Ithaca High School is back. It is a great place to send your kids. My kid had a great experience there. So, you know, because of you, because of those in the room, and other boards that tried to put all that together. And so, you know, I'm a team guy. I played on teams. You know, I can't do what I do at work without my team around me, and I can't do this without the team down here. Dr. Brown, the other executive team, really tremendous administrative team. I work with them probably, obviously, more closely. You know, I will point out we're a far cry from 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, from the team we had to what we have now. And it's, you know, this district has really gone to great lengths to be a great district again. I think we lost our way for a while, and I think we certainly have found our way again. And I will put up what our kids experience in this district against any private school, any public school, any charter school. We'll take them on because of the folks in this district. And I don't know how much more clear I can be, but it's what I started out by saying, you know, there's business owners that, you know, I can't go to them and override the tax cap and increase their taxes 10% per year. I can't do that. You know, unless they want to go ahead and get a different job too. I mean, that I went through that. So, you know, I'm aware of that, but I'm aware that we want to keep our great teachers. So I'm just trying to balance this out. So hopefully that's clear. And I'm going to stop talking because I'm running out of water. So we're gonna, and Jennifer, you have nothing. You don't want to weigh in, right? Jennifer, our board clerk, does not need to weigh in. So we'll go on into our consent agenda.
I'll move the consent, and if seconded, we'd like to speak to it.
Second by Chris, and speak to it, Brett.
Or do we want to take a 2-minute break because nobody wants to hear about the mundane actual business?
If you all need to leave, please do. If you want to stay, please stay. We have lots of work to do.
Give it a minute so we can hear.
Brad needs to speak to a few things. We're going to go ahead. Go ahead, Brad.
Yep. Quiet down. To quiet down. Quiets down a little. Only Finance Committee reviewed everything last night. There's just one item here to draw your attention to. It didn't get into our board docs until today. 6J, resolution to approve an agreement for professional services with Transportation Advisory. While it didn't get into board docs until today, we have spoken about it at the committee level a couple of times about doing a study on transportation, and just want to point it out there. And one of the reasons we delayed getting it out there was to make sure we were going to get state transportation aid for doing the study, and David has been able to confirm that we'll be able to get transportation aid for that. And that was the only item I needed to speak to. I think everything else is routine.
All right. Good. So move seconded. No other comments, questions?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Sean.
Question regarding, so the transportation service I saw, that's that can be doing an audit of routes, just doing a whole audit of the entire transportation?
No, if you take a look, there's
I did read the thing, right.
Yeah, a list. I mean, they're looking at labor, the policies and procedures, the maintenance procedures,
there's several steps.
the fleet. It's a pretty complete look at transportation.
So, because I didn't see that idea about the routes, that's what I was wondering. Is that part of it?
Routing efficiency analysis is one of the last item.
Yep. And then a question about the surplus items. It seems like every month we're having. Are we just going to keep going? We're having Paul go through, or whoever go through.
We're trying to clean those out.
These still we're talking about Danby.
Yeah, I think some of it's coming from Danby. Some of it's just things that are returned and are no longer technology that are no longer functioning.
Fantastic.
Are you guys scrapping metal?
We're selling it. Yeah, we're selling it. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, get whatever we can get. I mean, recognize.
These are monitors and stuff.
Yeah, recognize that some of these aren't worth a lot more than recycle value, but at least get something back.
Really trying to get rid of it without having to pay dumping charges, I think.
Yeah,
more than anything else. Yeah, trying to do that. And yes, still trying to clear out those storage trailers out at Danby.
Good one.
I don't know how many we're down to, David. Do you know? I
don't know.
2? Are we down to 2?
Really?
Wow. Big.
Could be wrong.
2 with stuff in it. There's still more there. It means two, right.
2 with stuff.
I was going to say, I just drove by the other day and there
That'd be great.
More trail.
I'll find out and let you know.
Yeah.
Well, the neighbors out there would love to have us tow some of those out of there.
Great.
I'm on it.
put one in our yard.
U-Haul.com.
So good, we're getting back into it. So any other questions, comments regarding consent? I'm not seeing any. All in favor? That's everyone but Eldred. Those opposed, those abstaining would be held. So good, and now
One more meeting.
one more meeting. There you go, Eldred.
You're giving yourself a month, huh?
Is that opposed or abstain?
Abstaining, yeah. And I think, Dr. Brown, we're ready for you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Ms. Dennisman. I will be very brief. I only have one item. But I must say, it's been fascinating this evening. I've looked at my notes from last year's second meeting in January and tonight's meeting, my notes for this meeting. And I said something last year this time that I think got me in hot water with the governor's office. They did call and say they didn't appreciate what I said. And I also got another call saying that one of the reasons I wasn't appointed to one of those fancy commissions was because of what I said at this meeting.
Oh, darn.
And at that time...
Another unpaid job you missed out on?
Yeah, I'm so sorry they didn't appoint me to that one. But what I said then was, as a new person to New York State, attempting to understand what was happening with the governor's proposal, budget proposal last year at this time, and all the other laws and things we were facing as educators, I couldn't make sense of it. And I just said, I think people are setting up systems to make sure we point fingers at one another and for communities to fight one another as opposed to understanding what the real issues are. And I said then that I felt like my community, where I'm going to raise my children, was smarter than that. And that we wouldn't get to a place where we would point fingers at one another and the conversations would not be elevated to a place where we learn and grow together to solve very complex problems. Unfortunately, I'm at a place now as a community member, I'm going to say this, that I think we're getting caught up in this madness. And what we see tonight, what I felt when I walk in Wegmans, when I'm walking with my child in the park, people are pointing fingers at one another in our community, as opposed to engaging in a conversation that's causing not only Ithaca, but other communities across our state issues. Not only that, I think leaders are contributing to that, which is very unfortunate too. So I say that there's a session next week in Auburn, and there are going to be many more over the coming weeks and months that I'm going to continue to promote for our community to engage in. The conversation from my perspective is the one we must be having in response to legislation, budget proposals that are contributing to our school district losing over $21 million over the last, how many years, 6 years, 5 years? That are contributing to us not even be able to go to our taxpayers and ask them to support our fine educators. That are contributing to us having tough conversations about offering what I would say in minimal increases to salary when we know that's an issue. I want teachers to be making more money too. We all think educators are underpaid across the nation, and yet we're having conversations about people thinking or disrespecting teachers and not wanting to give them. I would love to give everyone a 20 or 30% increase because they deserve it. And we're underpaid as educators. You can't pay an educator enough. And quite frankly, you've been yelled at, and people are telling you hate kids when you're doing it for free. Yet we, in my community, we've done what I said we wouldn't do last year. And this is one of those times when I feel being a visionary, which is one of my strengths, I'm upset about it when I foreshadowed this. So I'm putting the challenge out. I'm so upset that people just left when we got to the real conversation, especially when we have a teacher who's about to speak about some outstanding work.
I'm still here.
People are leaving. So I'm hoping that people will get ready to engage in the real conversations about what's happening in public education, not just in Ithaca, and are looking to do the work, including going to a session next week in Auburn, 6:30 p.m. at West Middle School, where we're going to be, as a Central New York School Board Association, the Central New York administrators and teachers and parents, talking about and advocating for making some adjustments to legislation and budget proposals that are contributing to communities like ours pointing fingers at one another and saying things like we hate teachers. Thank you for the
Thanks, Dr. Brown. And so we need to move on. We have a fairly long agenda for the school district business. And Jeff, we're merging with other districts because we can. Athletically.
This is a simple request from Montessori School. And it's modified sports only, again, for the spring. And it only involves boys and girls lacrosse and modified boys and girls track, which we make no cuts in. And once again, those students that would be joining our teams would not take, positions or spots from our student athletes. That's a given as far as I'm concerned. So we just need the approval. Their board, Montessori School, they initiated this, obviously. I don't go looking for them, but they want an opportunity for their kids who they don't have any opportunities for athletics at those schools or at that particular school. So they asked to join ours, and we're requesting that. And then if our board does, then we will go to the section and the league to request the approval for them as well.
Thanks,
I make a motion that we merge with Montessori School and modified boys and girls track and modified boys and girls lacrosse.
I'll second.
Second by Brad. The The application, well, the highlights are certainly right on your board docs, and Jeff had it in hand. Any questions? Like 5 kids? 5 or whatever?
There's actually 4.
4. One each. Right. Well, that's, so 4. Right. Any other questions other than mine? We're good? All in favor? That's everyone. Eldred is voting on this one. There we go. So thanks, Jeff. Real good.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have a great spring season. And we're going to move on to the Ottawa field trip. Once again, a field trip that I don't get to go on. I always, it's always great.
It's only one night. You can go.
It's only one night, right?
It's only one night. You can join them.
Yeah, exactly. I've never been to Ottawa.
So I'm going to let these fine employees and women of our district tell you about their trip.
So I'm Gwen Freeman, and I am the advisor for the Canada Club at the high school. It's a small club that I was asked to advise when they couldn't find another advisor, and I said, well, yeah, sure. So the nice thing is I have met 6 or 7 kids out of this club that are interested in Canada and would like to take a trip to Ottawa. And this is Jillian Turvey, who is the president, and she has for us a little bit of a presentation about our trip to Ottawa.
Great.
So I want to take the club to Canada because they've never been, and also it's a very educational place. It is the capital, and there's the Parliament buildings, there's the Canadian National History Museum, there's the Art Gallery of Canada, and there's a lot of educational things to do there, along with learning about Canada, and it's reasonably priced. So the Parliament buildings, of course, is free, and it's not too far away, and they get a taste of Canada.
Great.
The trip would be an overnight trip to Ottawa. We have talked to transportation and have received approval for me to drive the van.
Great.
And I have another high school teacher who will be going with us. We've looked at the funding of this rather seriously, and it can be covered easily and provide for all of the students who have participated since on a regular basis the opportunity to go. It will be within a cost factor that everyone can afford.
I don't have it right in front of me. It's a computer thing, but timing of the trip, when is?
March.
It's March of this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Going right up.
And 6 kids, how many kids?
About 5.
Okay, 5. Again, I'm one off.
About
so.
or about?
It's a vote.
I know, I apologize. I
Anything else do we need?
The question we normally ask, obviously, is about affordability for families and make sure that it's not a deterrent for folks to participate. I look at the budget, and it seems like that would be one of the most cost-effective international trips we've ever run at the high school. So there's no need to ask that question. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity. Having been to Ottawa a number of times beyond the place you'll be going to, the food is amazing, so have some really good food as well.
I'll move approval.
I'll second. I'm still
Yep.
Jen, did you have?
I'm just gonna, every time that a trip comes up, I'm just gonna make a plug for myself if you need a board member. Because I did it for the Paris one and for the we're there. Yeah, so, yeah, if you need another adult.
As long as you pay your own freight, it's you
Looking for a
got to pay your way,
free
right?
Fundraising, it's all fundraising.
Right, exactly. So we're good, right? Any other questions? It was moved, seconded. Jennifer, you got the move, seconded. Well, you got the motion correct. Did we? Oh. See if I actually read things. That'd be great. All in favor? That's everyone once again. So have a great trip.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy. Skate on the canal.
Still have ice up there, right?
Yeah.
That's a cool little picture too, right?
It's March, they'll still have ice.
March, could be slushy, but.
So we have a greenhouse at Ithaca High School apparently, and we're going to hear about it.
We don't actually have a greenhouse, we have a high tunnel.
That's,
We want the agenda changed.
no, I would go along with that because I've heard about this high tunnel and I didn't know about a greenhouse.
I just wanted to quickly introduce Karen Keachel, is a special education teacher at Ithaca High School. Joining her is Scott Breigel and Harlan Gray. We asked Karen to do a short presentation tonight. A very collaborative project that they have across disciplines at the high school, and also collaborative in terms of working with different community groups for funding. So we thought it was just a great opportunity for Karen to share the work that she's doing.
More than that.
We wanted to clarify that's not a greenhouse because greenhouse you have to heat, costs money, does not.
A budget item, yes.
Yes.
Okay, we got it.
So we just want to clarify, not a line item.
All right, so there is a nice little picture of our high tunnel. The outsides are plastic, not glass.
Sure.
No heating unit. So, talking about money is important. This hasn't cost the school district anything. So, the three of us got together and we worked on a Connecting Classroom grant, and that's where this kind of started. And we were able to buy the structure because we were luckily we were awarded one for over $5,000, and then I applied for a Lowe's Toolhouse grant. I've received another $5,000 to put all the dirt and stuff in it because it's kind of like concrete out there. Kind of. And so we wanted to make sure that this was a sustainable project. So we planted about 500 tulip bulbs. So toward the end of April, early May, I hope everybody plans on buying tulips because we're going to get a bunch of them. And that's 2 beds. The other 2 beds that are in it are going to be greens, different lettuce, spinach, and kale. And Mr. Torrey, one of the science teachers, has spoken with the head of the high school cafeteria about purchasing those greens at a nominal fee so that we can buy more seeds. We wanted to take a chance now to give a special thank you to IHS Facilities because when we started the construction, we needed a little bit of help. They wouldn't let Harlan drive the Bobcat.
Why not?
But they did bring in fill and soil and help us level the ground. They brought in stone for us to put around it. Landscaping cloth. They loaned us wheelbarrows. We moved a lot of dirt.
No, the students moved a lot of dirt.
Yes,
Just be clear who's doing the work.
Yeah. Okay. So
and that was last spring, and that was actually a collaboration between Karen's secondary transition program and our AP chemistry, which they're done with their curriculum. So just
yeah. So these are some pictures from last year when we were putting it all together. We had the STP technology class out there, led by Mr. Sevilla, who taught the kids how to use a transit and made sure the ground was all level. And then we brought in my science class and the AP chemistry kids, and lots of wheelbarrows, lots of dirt, lots of working together. It took a long time to do it, but the kids did a phenomenal job, and they were working together. And it was just an excellent opportunity for kids that might never have actually hung out together to spend time together in the teamwork type of situations. There's us on the very last day pulling the plastic over. On the inside of the structure, it was over 100 degrees.
No air conditioning either, apparently.
It was hot, it was really hot. And the field days thing was going on, and we still had students that came over and assisted us. They didn't have to. So that was really good. So this is this year, the fall semester. We were just kind of getting things off the ground. And so we have the IHS High Tunnel, and we have our 3 departments. Now, for the Technology and Engineering Education Department.
Some of the things that we've done this year is that we installed the doors on either side of the high tunnel. We've built some storage containers to be able to utilize for some of the tools on the inside of the high tunnel. We're also going to work within the garden shed that Keithel has purchased to be able to do some storage on the inside of that within our woodworking class. My engineering students in our EDD class through the pitch night from IPI and the STEM organization were awarded some money to do some automation of the high tunnel, where they're going to look at temperature and moisture sensing to be able to automate the high tunnel in terms of the doors opening and closing, especially for the long breaks and stuff that we have as teachers and stuff for spring break and whatnot.
For myself, that I teach the STP science class. I have a garden at home, but I'm not an expert in high tunnels. But Mr. Torrey, the chemistry teacher, he is an expert in high tunnels. He has 4 of them.
Yeah. So my role in this was to push our department to establish a sustainable agriculture class. So we have a chemist who's also a secret gardener. So that was a well-kept secret. And I was like, "You're a good gardener. We should have this class." So he's actually been the brainchild behind a lot of the planting and the chemistry of the ground, so to speak, because it actually was like digging in concrete until we brought in like many pounds of compost. And so our role will actually become a little more prominent in the spring when we have sustainable agriculture. And Paul Alexander's been great because he's also been really willing to work with us in terms of additional plots. So maybe an additional plot like across from the fitness center too.
And Bob, Mr. Torrey has met with me consistently throughout this semester. So even though it's just been my class that's been in there and not the sustainable agriculture yet, because he is the one that has the most experience in that area, him helping me figure out what types of lessons I need to plan, and then we can take what we're learning about and actually go out there and do it. I've also brought in some gardening specialists from the Cornell Cooperative Extension that have worked with my students in the high tunnel and helped us build curriculum. Now my favorite part, showing some pictures of the kids. Off to the side we have some of the students with the woodworking class, and Mr. Shine down in the corner. He's a new teacher at IHS this year, and our students had the opportunity to teach him how to wiggle wire.
Wiggle wire is what holds a plastic down.
Yeah. And it's a skill, it's not easy. And off to the side is my science class, and what they're doing there is before you can't just go in there and start planting stuff in the dirt. You have to have a plan. And we're building up raised beds, and then the hay in the middle is so they don't step on the plants. So for this fall, we planted tulip bulbs in 2 of the beds, and in the other 2, we planted various types of lettuce. We're working out, since the fall planting is a little bit tricky with the weather, and we had to prep the area to be able to use it first. We won't have to do that like next year and things like that, because it'll already be set up. So we spent a fair amount of time doing that. So we put the lettuce in a little bit later than we wanted to, and we were fortunate enough to have Mr. Torrey start the lettuce seedlings at his house, and then just bring them in. So this is maybe a month ago. So the lettuce grew really well. You can see it off to the side in this picture. We put in different types, so this was an opportunity to just kind of see what would grow well in there. And the really lush green stuff over there is oats. So that's just going to add, you probably say it's better than me.
Green manure.
After it dies, it just adds more chemistry or
Minerals. We grew buckwheat in there over the summer so that it would do the same thing. So.
It's adding organic matter back to the soil. Sorry, it's the dairy farmer thing.
We've been planting.
I wasn't kidding. No, okay.
Yeah.
So,
I know.
yeah.
The kids really enjoy spreading the seeds because it doesn't matter where it lands. It doesn't have to be real precise.
Old school oat seeding. Yeah.
That works out really well, except when they throw it in the middle of the lettuce.
Yep.
Yeah.
You also have visitors this fall.
Oh yeah, I have pictures of that.
Oh, this is the.
Yeah. So this is Mr. Criley and Mr. Briegel's EDD students.
Oh.
And Ian, who's on the right, was one of my AP Bio students last year, and he worked at Boyce Thompson Institute over the summer, he was obsessed with plants. And so when we got to plants, he was really pumped. And so actually, it's a perfect. So I passed him off to you to do high tunnel temperature management. So.
And Aiden on the other side participates in the PEEPS program at Cornell
which is through the plantation.
Yep. So they both bring a lot of plant knowledge, and hopefully we're crossing our fingers that all their planning pays off, and we're doing all of our best to support them in that. This is our newest addition in the back there, and it's our fabulous little garden shed. And facilities did an excellent job of sliding into that tiny little spot. And I've spoken with Carol Spence, who's head of the art department, about maybe working on an art project to make our garden shed more visually appealing, since that's all she can see from her window now. Before it was just a brick wall, so it's not like there's a big difference. This is a picture of the first graders, Miss Beckman, who is just an amazing teacher. She teaches at BJM.
Bell Sherman. Bell Sherman.
Bell Sherman. Sorry, I put the wrong one. All right, wherever she teaches, she's excellent.
She told me today she knew about the high tunnel because of Twitter. That's just how she found out. And she's been coming to our Next Generation Science Standards training. Yes, and so it's been really cool to talk to her about the connection because they built a structure also, right?
Yeah, a smaller hoop tunnel, and so she reached out, and we were able to bring the kids, and the lettuce had not been harvested yet. So they were great. They're right down there near.
They're right down there, right?
They could just grab the whole thing.
Maximize labor.
Do they want to come back and pick tulips?
So it's on
Sure.
It worked out great. My students don't always feel like they get to present to other people.
Sure.
But having these younger students here and being able to share their experiences with them, they all felt really incredible. And the little kids were excellent. They had lunch with them. It was a huge picnic in the middle. We had students from the Oasis program telling jokes. And it didn't matter if it made any sense or not. The little kids loved it. So overall, it was a great experience that we were able to share a whole bunch of lettuce back with the little kids there. Great. So I shortened it up because I knew that this was going to be kind of a long meeting. So this is our last slide. And this is the spring semester as we're going into it. We have hopes of adding a whole bunch of things. The Sustainable Agriculture class will be starting. The SDP science class will continue to run. Other science classes are likely to start doing some stuff out there, some project-based learning. My Oasis program will also be going out there and doing some stuff. It's a great sensory input for them. We've been contacted by the gardening club, which has combined with the green team. And my students have already been helping them in the smaller quad area do some projects. And hopefully we'll be able to coordinate some stuff inside the high tunnel. The woodworking class will be building shelves in the garden shed and some benches for inside the high tunnel. Margie, Shaw, and I are working on the CDOS credential that all students with IEPs can have. They can graduate with, but they have to have 54 work-based learning hours. And as both of us are certified coordinators, we can have them out there earning some of those hours if they don't have them. And the EDD students are going to continue working on their project. So it's going to be a busy semester out there in our tunnel.
And we'd like to thank IPI again. They were extremely generous and supporting throughout the project.
We've continuously been in contact with them, and I share tons of pictures. But they're always sending us emails, encouraging us, and letting us know about different opportunities for our kids. So it's really nice.
Good. Sounds like there's momentum behind this program, the initiative. Looks great.
And the deadline for IPI Connecting Classrooms grants is when? For this coming year. Isn't there a deadline?
They extended it.
It's February 1st. Okay, you already looked it up.
I think Mary emailed
I think
us
they did
today.
two rounds this year, but it's a good way to get a big chunk of change for a pretty big project.
Just quick, just practical, ongoing maintenance. Talked about regulating temperature. Who handles, who does all that? I'm hoping kids, but go ahead.
Yeah, right now, all it is a crank, and the kids do it. They crank it up and they crank it down.
So our hope is that it'll actually be a solar-powered piece, so that it doesn't actually take any kind of outside energy to monitor the system.
They saw their pitch. Students who were
that's right.
preparing that.
Yep. So that was for this.
Paul's been great. We have there's a hose bib out there for helping. There's often a concern about flooding, as we all know at Ithaca School, but not in that space. He mentioned that there has never been flooding there. But I think it's a pretty collaborative event between all of the adults in terms of managing that space and sustaining it. I know the concern is always creating structures and then having them not be tended to.
Well, sure, exactly.
Abandoned in place.
Yeah.
Well, that was a nice idea. We did that for a few years, but then, okay, now we.
Yeah.
And the initiative is.
So we're hoping that because we have many different departments and many different adults involved, that there's
the ownership there.
Yeah, that there's some level of ownership across. That's not stuck with a single person, and it's not stuck with a single department either. So that there's a lot of learning opportunity there, and that caring will continue. So.
With the spread out as a high school it's been really nice to be able to have other people come, because it's right outside of our classrooms, to come down into our area and to be able to work with the science department and the special education department. So.
It's great to be able to bring those three departments together on a common project. Doesn't happen hasn't happened in the past very often. Correct. Right. That's great. Drip irrigation, or how do you water?
Right now it's with a hose and just.
Yeah, we just wonder.
That's actually one.
But if somebody has to do
like that, that would be ideal.
All right.
That's actually one of the things that within the EDD project that they actually have started looking at is possibly doing something like that.
In the meantime, the children love to use the hose.
I can't imagine.
Good. That's great. Any other questions? Lettuce varieties,
I
anything?
don't have a question, but this sounds fantastic. Sounds like a really great project.
Well, you can buy some tools.
I will. I'm looking forward to it.
We're going to sell tools.
I mean, what a satisfying thing to have all that green stuff and
Bring them to a board meeting at night.
Yeah.
Yes. Send one of your students.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yep, yep.
Yeah, I'll simply echo what other folks say. This is, we keep talking about these kinds of projects and project-based learning in that regard. And so, what another great example of what young folks are doing and our amazing teachers are doing to try to translate get out of the mind a little bit, also into literally get your hands dirty. So, what a fantastic project. And I get to see it when I go to the gym every now and then, so I get to pass by. But
Every now and
then. It's once a month, whatever it may be. Who's counting? Good stuff. Thank you.
Great. No, thank you very much. Thank you. So we're applauding year-round, obviously that presentation, but year-round budgeting, I guess we're applauding as well, Amanda, correct?
I was thinking there were some fund balance shout-outs during one comment, and I said, oh, I wish I know it's hard to stay late, and I know.
They had the same thought.
Right?
And when she said there was 23 million, I was wishing there still was.
Well, I'll show a little bit, and I'll try to just talk to that. I wasn't going to go into specifics tonight in terms of the money, because this was more about education around what fund balance really is. But it's perfect, and I actually think I can probably do that. We should be good. There we are. All right. So tonight, as we promised, we were going to do, again, just a very brief education around budget components, important pieces. As many folks know, we have received our state comptroller audit, and that is not finalized yet. A lot of the content around the state comptroller's audit is around fund balance. And a lot of the budgeting discussion, when we get down sort of to the very end, where we sort of trimmed as much as we could and looked for all the efficiencies and really solidified our revenue. And if there's still a gap remaining, a lot of conversation is around fund balance. And so tonight I thought that would be a really good conversation to have. So Jenny mentioned something about the 23 million in reserves. And reserves, I'll show you, is just one part of fund balance. That was sort of back here. Reserves right now, remember, we're sort of to date kind of in this little trajectory here. We're hoping that these lines will stay apart. We're working on that, but again, as just a reminder, I projected that our revenue and our expenses would match. Right now, in terms of reserves, we have $3.88 million. And the reason is because every time that expenditure line is above the revenue line, you have to fill that with fund balance. And so essentially what this graph is showing, and it totally really captures in a picture exactly what was being talked about with GEA and fund balance usage and all that, it was just perfect, is that the district really tried to utilize and leverage revenue or revenues from fund balance to be able to sustain the program, to sustain the work over very difficult times. We all know that along this sort of trajectory, if this was a timeline, we could chart out when the tax cap hit us, we can chart out when the GEA hit us, we could probably put factors in of how much money was taken back from the state in the state aid that was due to us. We could look at the dynamic factors around the impact to the tax cap calculation and then our leveraging of our fund balance. So anytime there's a gap in those lines, we're either building fund balance, which is when revenue is above the expenditure line, or we are decreasing fund balance. And so there's two ways to look at fund balance, right? There's fund balance from year to year, and that's the part of the fund balance that we'll be talking about when we go to balance our budget. And so last time when we were together, we talked about what we were anticipating for revenue. We talked about what we were anticipating for expenditure, and you sort of pointed out in another meeting, there's a gap there, there's a significant gap there. What we didn't take into account was also filling that gap with fund balance, right? So we know that every single year, if we end our prior fiscal year with a positive, that's how we build fund balance. Fund balance as a whole, as the district whole fund balance, so sort of the health of the district, that term is also used to sort of look at any of our liabilities and we take them away from our existing assets, and that's what we're left with. And so there are different types of ways that fund balance is utilized, and I wanted to start right out to say what fund balance is not. right? So essentially, fund balance, and as we know, and it was pointed out, we started with a lot of fund balance back just 3-4 years ago. We were definitely well-funded, $23 million. We are now right at the, probably, if you added all of the different types of fund balance that we have, including the one that is in the budget right now, the $2 million, we're just around $11 million total. So over the course of time, there was a tremendous amount of fund balance that was dedicated to the expenditures of the district. We all agree that is not a long-term solution. We did it. We tried to sustain that as long as we could. We thought that things were going to turn around in the state, and we recognized that this is really not a long-term solution for us because there's no rebuilding plan. It's like you dip into your savings account, and if you don't plan to put the money back, it's gone. And then also, too, fund balance is not a mystery, and I think we've done a lot of work in the district, and we'll continue to do work on presentations like this around really what is the purpose of this funding, when do we use it toward the budget, when do we expend the funds, and the different types of fund balances that are available to the district. So this is a wordy slide. I know I want to put that out more for the public, but I'm just going to sort of talk through it. The first type, that first column there, is the reserves. It's also referred to as restricted fund balance. And so I gave a few examples there. Those are again sort of bank accounts or savings accounts that the Board of Education at the end of a fiscal year, if we end positively, that we end with more revenue than expenditure, we can actually, as a board, you can make a motion and you can decide to put those monies into reserve accounts. One of the very active reserve accounts that we have here in Ithaca that we depend on tremendously is our capital reserve. We're on a 10-year replacement cycle of our buses. We happen to live in an area of the world where there's a lot of salt and a lot of sort of inclement weather. We have potholes in our bus garage parking lots. I mean, there's a lot of episodes where the buses get a lot of workout. Let's just put it that way. We put a tremendous number of miles on. And so the capital reserve is an example of reserve, a savings account that every year will take monies out, if it's there. We purchase new buses. We sell back the buses that are at least 10 years old, and we replace them, and so on and so forth. So one of our goals as a district always is to try to replenish that capital reserve. Because again, if you drain a savings account and you don't have a plan to replenish it, we'll be out of funds. Another example is the tax certiorari. We just got hit this year with one. That is when a property is assessed at a certain value, and then they appeal to the court and say, no, in fact, we are not that good. We should be being charged less taxes. They have already paid their taxes. The district has to, if the court votes in favor of the business, we have to give them back the money, the difference of that. And so the tax cert is a good example of a reserve account that has very clear restrictions. All reserves have restrictions on them on how they're set up, how they're utilized, and the board's interaction around those. In the middle there is an unassigned fund balance, and I've tried to pick a little icon there in terms of this umbrella, and really that is, I think that's probably the best capturing. It is the rainy day fund. The state comptroller's office monitors that. They want to make sure that we don't overtax our taxpayers and put away so much funds that year to year we're sort of accumulating these monies on behalf of our taxpayers. So they've capped it in New York State. That's why I called it the AKA the 4% maximum, right? Because here in New York State, we have a 4% maximum that we are allowed to carry forward in our unassigned fund balance.
4% of the annual operating fund.
And that is voted on. That is voted on by the public.
Just to say 4%, that doesn't say 4% of what?
I apologize. Yep, Brad. So thank you. You got it. So it's of the budget that went to the voters and that was approved. You're allowed to carry 4% of that forward to the next year. Okay. And so those don't have restrictions typically, except for sort of that cap. You can go over the cap. You'll probably get written up by the state comptroller if you do. And again, those are sort of sit in a savings account and they're to be utilized upon discussion when developing the budget. Finally, in the last column is the appropriated, or also called the assigned fund balance. That is the portion of our actual budget that we take forward to the voters that is there for either contingency purposes or oftentimes for sort of your savings goal for the end of the year. And people use appropriated fund balance for a lot of different reasons. We have about $2 million in there right now, and we've been, I think for the past 2 to 3 years we've had $2 million. Before that we've had more. Appropriated fund balance, again, should not be used to cover long-term costs of the district, recurring costs of the district. They really should be used for one-time situations where, let's say, you don't want to tax the taxpayers too much, or you need a cushion for unexpected fluctuations. And so I'll show you a little bit in our budget sort of how we utilize fund balance, and many districts are similar. If you notice across the bottom there is the total budget that we're living in right now. So that, as Brad mentioned, that is the voter-approved maximum amount of funds that the voters say we at the City School District are allowed to spend in any given year. Okay? And so it includes a number of things. So if you notice those first two circles, I try to think of them almost like a tier 1 and a tier 2, or really like the necessities and then the pretty much anticipated necessities. The first one is our actual expenses, right? Like our payroll when we settle on contracts. We've just been talking about that. Our benefit costs, our costs for gas for the buses, our costs for all the electric, right? A lot of those things are embedded there. We know they are coming. We also know in that second circle that there are unanticipated or anticipated fluctuations to all those things. We know that typically in two areas of the budget, special education and facilities, we oftentimes get a lot of anticipated increases to what we know are the costs. Because we know that every year there are going to be families that are moving into our district that are going to need services that we're going to have to find the funding for. And so we build it into that part of the budget. It's covered by our real revenue. We know that every year something around facilities will happen. This year, an example, just last year we had the water issues at the high school, we had the electric issues at the high school. Notice the trend, Jason, you know, that's always at the high school, right? So, and it happens everywhere else. But our goal as a district is to really make sure that those first two circles there are covered by our real revenue. The taxpayer dollars and the state aid and any other little anticipated revenue that's coming in. We want to make sure that we can cover our operational costs and not have to dip into our fund balance. Because the fund balance, as you can see in the third circle there, is really about those unanticipated contingencies. The almost catastrophic events, right? The ones that you really want to say, and we would decide together, I would bring you these things either through finance or at the board meetings to say, this is really problematic, this is something that needs addressing immediately. It's oftentimes a health and safety concern, and so we would then dip into that $2 million. So we look at that as a savings goal because every time you dip into that amount of fund balance and you don't have a plan to replenish it, it is gone for good. Unless you then can budget for next year to replenish those funds, right? And we all know that there's really two pots of money that we can go to: the state aid, which is pretty much stagnant, and our taxpayers. And we know we sort of balance the tax cap along with what people can possibly, provide to the district. So I hope that any questions about that is sort of the way that is made up. Great. And then finally, just a few sort of next steps around fund balance. I mean, obviously, one of the really keys for us, and I think we've all agreed, executive team, Dr. Brown, and then obviously the board too, is we want to take a look again into the context. We know that there are factors in our budget that are escalating costs. We know what the rate of escalation is for our revenue, and the revenue is not keeping up with our costs of doing business, of our operations. And so by tracking that out for a number of years so that we can see where we're able to develop a plan on how to predict what the fund balance needs are and what we need to do to sort of build the budget around that to be able to mindfully have a plan for the next steps in the next years coming. We also want to continue to examine the cost for savings. Either around recurring expenses, utilization of better, efficient, more methods, and then finally looking at the current fund balance that we have, making sure that it's manageable, setting reasonable goals around that, and achieving whatever those saving goals are. And very obviously always across all of our budget processes, we put sort of our kind of goal statement there, which is being clear and predictable and transparent. So with that said, that's sort of an overview of fund balance. Next time we'll come up with another topic that would be pertinent. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. And if not, we can always prepare them for next time as well.
Thanks, Amanda.
You're welcome. Great job.
Questions? I'm not seeing anything at this point, Amanda. So we appreciate the quick and thorough overview of what the heck a fund balance is. So.
Fund balance.
Yeah.
Who knew how exciting that was?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Thank you all.
So
In the title, it's fun.
Fun. That's really where the fun is, Johnson.
I'm telling you, I'm impressed.
Wow.
I'm already there.
Yeah, exactly.
Very impressive.
So
Humor coming out?
just polling the board. Do you want to take a 2-minute break, Sean, before you get into policies? Do you want to push forward?
I'm ready. I think
Ready to go?
If you can step out, we should. This should be painless. Let's figure out what happens.
All right. No, I think that's fine, Sean. I appreciate your willingness to
Thank you.
break through.
We'll find out. So, good folks, I move policy 5300.64, classrooms observations, for a second reading and adoption this evening.
Second.
Second by Chris, and we appreciate it's in yellow.
I don't know why.
No, we like that.
I don't know why I did that.
No,
It's very colorful.
That's great. It's part of that
Just a
high.
second, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
It's fine, don't worry about it.
We'll figure it out.
Part of that high tunnel thing, letting in sunlight.
Sean made
It's
the
great.
motion.
I did, and Chris Malcolm second.
Yep.
And if I'm not mistaken, there were no changes to this policy, both at the committee meeting and from our conversations last board meeting.
Obviously, anyone can comment now, but are we good, Sean?
I just had that one question that we kind of emailed back.
Was that this
number
policy?
3. I think so. Yeah, I think so.
No, I thought it was.
The next one?
Yes.
Oh,
6-5.
yeah, the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Good?
Okay, good.
Move seconded, all in favor. That's everyone, those abstaining, the elder, everyone but elder.
Great.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I move
Sorry you're watching this.
No problem.
Something I can do.
No, we're good.
I move policy 5300.65, visitors to the school, for a second reading and adoption this evening.
I'll second.
There was one conversation about this that Ann brought up. It's on bullet point number 3, and so when we get there, we'll show it to you momentarily. But this is about visitors to the school. It currently states, bullet point number 3, all visitors to the school must enter through the designated main entrance and report to the main office upon arrival at the school. Visitors must sign the visitor's register and will be issued a visitor's ID badge, which will be worn at all times while in the school or on school grounds. Ann's comment was duly noted that a lot of elementary schools, there are parents and caregivers who will be around the school or be at the playground both after school and before school, but it's not necessarily during school hours. So should we include, my compromise, or suggestion compromise, was to include in bullet number 3 on the second sentence where it says, is it there? Visitors, during school hours, visitors must sign the visitor's register, etc.
During the school.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with the expectation, and we said that we can't sort of accommodate all situation scenarios, and legal counsel was encouraging us not to think about all scenarios, so just simply leave it at that and go from there.
Sounds fine.
So folks, that's the one addition we would make to that policy.
Right.
And that edit has been accepted, correct? I mean, we don't need to vote on that separately. We're going to go.
No, we'll vote on it together as what's passed. If we all understand that, we're voting on that policy with that quick phrase in that third bullet.
To be clear, thank you. Anything else? All in favor? That's everyone. Alfred abstaining. There you go, Alfred.
Great. I move policy 5300.7, public conduct on school property, for a second reading and adoption this evening.
Waiting.
Anyone want a second?
I'll second.
Second by Brad.
6 of blank.
Anyone?
Yeah, we're going to delete the 6 in a minute. The conversation about this was Brad's great point. At one point in time, bullet point number 5 in this policy said, intimidate, harass, or discriminate against any person on the basis or actual perceived of, etc. Brad's point was we don't want anyone to be harassed or intimidated for any reason in particular of all those things, and we agreed, so we separated the bullets. So number 5 says intimidate or harass any person, and they were advised by legal counsel to keep the second part about discrimination based upon the protected classes. So if you notice on number 7, keeps the protected classes, but it does get, what we're talking about is that we just want to make sure we protect everybody. We can just say, intimidate, discriminate, or harass against any person. The concern from legal counsel is we may be actually taking on far more liability than we may need to, but we could do that as a district if that's the kind of ethic we want to espouse. I thought the good compromise was to split the two of them, and the policy committee agreed. I realize my two policy folks aren't here, so I can say whatever I want to say. You all can find out afterwards, right?
Yeah.
But the two policy folks weren't here, but that was the conversation. I know Matt was in the room, as was Adam as well. So
I'm having formatting issues trying to get that
we'll
6 out.
figure. We trust that you'll figure it out. The
Yeah.
numbers.
Purposely left blank. Just type in purposely left blank.
Yeah, right. So that's where we were in this
liability
policy.
there. I mean, well, go ahead. Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
No, that's it. That was the only thing we changed.
Okay.
Was that.
Very good. I think we got it. All in favor? That's everyone. Abstaining? Eldred.
This is, I move policy 5300.7-R, public conduct on school property regulation, for a second reading and adoption this evening.
Second.
In this policy, we changed after the recommendation of Mr. Malcolm, who recommended that if we have a regulation that helps instruct us how to deal with unruly behavior on campus, the first thing we should do is actually inform the person they are engaging in unruly behavior. So we added that bullet where number A, it says, inform the individual that he or she is engaging in prohibited conduct.
Well,
See,
right. Yeah,
what a novel idea. Right?
Chris and I were saying, what did I do?
So previously it just said attempt to persuade the individual to stop the prohibited activity. Now we figured, maybe the verbal awareness may be enough for them to stop on their own. We'll figure it out from there. But that's what we added to this policy.
Okay. And so like the athletic director would be considered a designee of the principal? Because I mean, we on occasion have had
that's right.
unruly people at athletic events.
The good thing is we actually have an athletic public conduct policy coming up next.
Separate.
That we voted on previously. We're just changing the number to we're finding, we all love these numbers, right? Thank you, Jen, for your organization.
Duplicates.
That's right.
Yeah, right, and so that was second reading, right? So we're all good. All in favor? That's everyone. Abstaining? Eldred? Yes, thank you.
So where are we at now? Did I do
commencement?
Policy 4772, district commencement exercises. This came up in the regular occurrence of the 4000 series, which we did not officially change. There is no change to this policy. We're just giving the board an opportunity to make changes to it should we want to, but since it came up, we thought we would bring it to the board. This policy was decided on 1997. I think it was my second or third year in the district. I quite remember this conversation about graduation commencement ceremonies in ICSD.
There was some controversy.
A little bit of controversy. It took a little bit of time. The policy committee decided to keep the policy as is and simply put it forward so we can get it into the new policy book. If folks want to make changes to it, we can have that conversation. That was not the policy committee's recommendation.
It's really short.
It's very short.
Very short.
And I guess we're going to have a policy that we are going to have a commencement exercise, and that's about all it says. But it's actually, it's the day.
It's the day of the commencement exercise.
It's the date that has always been the issue. Is having it on Thursday would eliminate travel for those who had to work to try to make it. Why don't you have it on Saturday or Sunday? Because that's when my family can come, and not on Thursday. But obviously,
and the policy says we're very aware that numerous students Friday, Saturday, and Sunday have significant religious observances from many faiths, and that didn't seem the best to have students who could not actually attend their own high school commencement because they were observing faith. And so the counter to the parents' response that I would correct, or the family, or grandma, or grandpa, or whomever, was we appreciate that, we understand that, and we hope that's not the case, but we're just talking about the commencement ceremony, which we want all students to attend. We encourage you to have commencement celebrations at any point in time that you would like. But this is the way in which we got around trying to respect everyone's religious, not everyone's, most people's religious faiths.
Okay. And we are one of the few districts that has it on Thursday. I mean, we should certainly point that out.
That's right.
Because it is pointed out to me fairly often.
The large districts do it every day for 2 weeks.
Yeah, right, and that's something. So I move policy 4772, district commencement exercises, for a first reading.
Yeah.
Second.
Second by Chris. Yeah, I assumed it was first, because we had seen it before. So first reading, all in favor? That's everyone, and Eldred is abstaining. There we go.
And that'll be back to us next time. And then lastly, good folks, thank you very much for your patience here. There are 2 additional policies. Both these policies, again, if I may be, so we'll take a moment to say it makes a tremendous difference when we have a really good board clerk. And so I say that to give you kudos, Jen, in particular, but also we have lived without board clerks or without good board clerks as well. Jen was able to figure out, was trying to assign the number that we just passed, 5300.7, that policy number was actually previously assigned, and we assigned that policy number to the Athletic Caregiver Code of Conduct and Regulations. We've been working with NISBA to find some different numbers, and so we are not taking NISBA's recommendation, which was to get rid of this policy in many regards. What we decided was just to renumber it. There's no changes to it. It's the same policy that we passed in 2013. We can make changes to it. That's why we go through the process. But all we're asking folks to do, the only change is going from 5300.7 to 5300.9. And that way we can keep it consistent in our policy book and our code of conduct. But it's open for conversation. So I'm going to move both of these simultaneously because it's a first reading. So I move policy 5300.9 and .9R for a first reading.
Okay.
Second by Brad. Thank you, Brad.
And just as context, this came up during the last athletic director and coaches who are asking for the athletic director to help them have an avenue to deal with disruptions during athletic events. It doesn't happen often, but as we know, it does happen. And so we try to put together a policy to help our coaches and our athletic director try to keep folks in the spirit of positivity when they're participating or attending athletic events.
Okay, so there will everyone.
So that's a
can,
first reading.
First reading, and
just give people time in case they want to comment.
Everyone can check it out. It'll be on your policies. Okay. All in favor? That's everyone, and Eldred's still abstaining.
Nope.
Did you vote yes, Eldred? Or? Okay, Eldred's still abstaining. It's a first reading, Eldred. I mean, okay, it's good. I would never. You would vote, however.
You need about 30 more of those abstentions to catch me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we haven't started calling him Eldredge yet, and that's we did that already with someone else. But
that's great. Thank you all very much. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, Sean. Way to appreciate getting that work done. One more item, really, another school district business, board business, really, and Ann, I think you probably should speak to this regarding an ad hoc fiscal health advisory committee.
Or is there changes to it? Oh, well, no, that'd be separate. This is about a committee. So what I was thinking and kind of wondering about is whether it would make sense to have an ad hoc committee for the duration from now until the legislature goes, finishes their term in, I guess like June 16th, where the purpose of that committee would be advocacy for the issues, the policy issues at the Albany level that are impacting the financial conditions of the district, with specifically focused on the gap elimination adjustment, which again has hit our district, foundation aid, which again has hit our district because they haven't raised it at all, the tax cap, of course, which is a major thing to have to work with, and pre-K issues of funding that we are not getting for pre-K. So my idea would be to establish a committee that would be anybody on the board that was interested in participating, kind of voluntary, and perhaps members of the community if they're interested in the school community or the community as a whole, and would be working on strategies for outreaching to legislators and getting information out and getting I was thinking actually maybe even like some kind of blog, we would say like Amanda's presentation that she gave tonight, so the information that we get here we can get out there in the public, so that a little bit of translation of some of this stuff that's kind of opaque at the state level. They're kind of maybe working on ways to kind of make that a little bit more clear. Again, borrowing a lot of Amanda's stuff always makes it so clear. But and maybe taking that another step further. So anyway, that's what I would like to do. So I guess based upon that, just can move to establish a standing advocacy committee.
Ad hoc advocacy.
Second by Chris, and so we can certainly discuss, and just kind of looking at Sean, I mean, do we have a policy regarding
We do. I mean,
committees?
in some regards, I would assume that Ann has maybe looked at it, but not. But the email that came out sort of does some of those things. The establishment of any new board committee needs to pass board vote. It needs to establish a length of time, and it needs to establish a charge.
And the fact that it's involves non-board members, any other level, who would it be, who gets to be on the committee?
Citizens who want to assist.
The question becomes to make sure that if it's a board committee, it would need, if I'm not mistaken, at least 3 board members to either be assigned or to participate.
Right.
And beyond that, I think we have some flexibility to do whatever we want to do. If it's an official, I guess for me the question becomes, it's an ad hoc committee, so if the committee is writing letters, is the expectation that those letters then get voted on by the board?
Yes. Yeah.
Does there have to be a chairman?
There would have to be a chair, or a coordinator, or
someone would have to chair. Yeah, that's for sure. Set up a time to meet, etc. Right. All those things.
Are minutes required for an ad hoc?
Yeah, sure. Oh, you betcha.
It's public, yeah.
Everything we do requires
agenda.
Yep.
What I was thinking.
Published agenda, published when you're going to meet, before you meet. Exactly.
Open meeting laws.
Yep. Not to discourage any efforts in this matter whatsoever. But
Yeah, I was thinking maybe just, I mean, it's too detailed, but one, maybe we could combine it, I mean, do it on the same day as maybe like finance. So like, since we'll already just have heard about whatever financial issues are, relevant to that moment, everybody's already there, so maybe do it that way so it isn't like,
another night.
Another night, yeah.
Well, there is history, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe when we joined the board, there was a legislation, advocacy, or committee.
It was the finance committee. It was finance and legislation. Yeah.
That's what it was. And then we separated to make it finance and facilities.
Right. We dropped the legislative relations.
So I'm saying in essence that there was history behind the board having a committee work on this.
Right.
My immediate reaction is between now and March, I'd be concerned about additional labor. I like this idea you just posed about maybe tag teaming onto a current committee, but it wouldn't necessarily involve me doing the labor. So it is what it is. But my concern is how many we have to then populate these committees, and are we going to be able to do that, or can we do it as part of a current standing committee? But I'm open to the idea. We need to get much more active.
Well, I'm going to say I like the idea of a short term through the end of the legislative section. For it, I mean, I'd be willing to serve on it. We've already got a letter here in the agenda for you to take a look at to see if we can send out a letter to the legislators on those topics now as they begin to work on the budget. I think we need to be doing, Dr. Brown was mentioning the session up in Auburn, we need to be active in this area and advocating for Ithaca and for the Ithaca taxpayers and our students.
Go ahead.
Seems to be an area we were lacking, which is why so many people were glad you ran. I mean, you could do a tremendous amount, by yourself. That was if I remember correctly, the primary issue was this overwhelming sense of gloom and doom about APPR and Common Core and how the feds and the state made teachers feel undervalued and how they screwed everything up, right? And we never sort of got our heads around sending out the message to the public in the way they understand how much we were doing in our roles behind the scenes to advocate for our position, right? And that time has passed. The community will never know how much time he spent in Albany, right? How much time he spent advocating the LACS as an example of what this whole thing should look like, right? Us using our connections in Albany. If folks seem to assume that we were just sitting here passively allowing the state to continue to shove these things down our road. So to the extent that I can be useful to get that message out there that not only are we constantly thinking about this stuff, we got a lot of arrows in our quiver. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Just a quick word about language. I'm sure you chose fiscal help for a reason, but would it make sense to not to not limit to fiscal health. And,
Sure.
Because if you're talking about pre-K, I mean, it has fiscal complications, but APPR has financial implications, but it also is sort of an educational thing, right? So would it say an ad hoc legislation advocacy policy?
That's fine.
Would that work? Because that way we can then be a little bit broader than that.
Yeah.
It has some teeth too.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. And what I would dare say to Jen or whomever is what we'll then do then is copy the public comment stuff, which gives the definitive time, and I think the charge you have here suffices for what we need for a board committee.
Yep.
Right, that's good to go.
Yeah, I'm good with that. And certainly the impetus for this committee is really a very, very disappointing executive budget out of the governor. Really amazed. I said in an email to everybody that I was outraged. I am outraged. Unbelievable that they still don't get it. Still tapping us for another $1.1 million for a gap elimination adjustment for a crisis that apparently still exists in Albany, but we can spend $2 billion on the Tappan Zee Bridge. I mean, I don't go over the Tappan Zee Bridge. Sorry, guys. So it's just really outrageous that Foundation aid was flat. GA is still intact, and we're looking at essentially a tax levy limit starting with a zero handle. I mean, it's just amazing, and so appreciate Ann your work and pushing this forward, and we're just constantly having to fight many battles, but that's why we do what we do, I guess, right? It's all good. We have a charge, and
did you make
Ann moved,
Can someone
seconded.
articulate the actual motion?
Right, exactly.
A motion to create an ad hoc committee on, what did we say? Legislation Advocacy Committee to serve for the duration until end of June. And
Well, I had June 16th is when we go.
Legislative session ends June
Legislative
16th.
session.
that's fine. I was thinking when we trained. I actually would do it to the end of June because that's when we do our reorg meeting. I just call it to the end of that.
That sounds
But that,
Right. That's fine.
and the charge would be to focus on state policies that impact fiscal and educational health of the district.
That's the whole motion?
No, that's the, I'll get that to you later. That's going to be the charge.
That's the charge.
We'll need to put that out there in public at some point in time.
So I said motion to create an ad hoc legislative advocacy committee through June 2016. Is that a motion?
Yes.
And
Chris seconded it.
I second.
And he'll do it again.
Ann?
Ann made the motion.
And moved.
Dear Sean.
Well, we'll give it to Ann.
No, it's her.
No,
You should.
channeling that better.
That's right,
Proper
that's right,
language.
that's right.
It will be in the minutes forever, Ann, as Sean knows.
So it was voted on?
Not yet.
I'm waiting for
So
that.
we were just waiting for the proper motion, and I believe we have
Do
that.
we have to, at this point, determine, so my original thing is like anybody on the board that wants to be in it, but in terms of the community, do we have to determine how that would happen, or is that,
I'm gonna
Ask
leave that up.
anyone to attend.
what's that?
Ask anyone to attend.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that would be the first item of business when you have your first meeting. You can flesh that out. We don't need to do
I
that.
don't think committee members would be official committee members. I think you'd be inviting people to participate with the committee.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Just to keep it clean. But whenever 3 board members get together, there's rules and regs that we have to follow. But all our committee meetings are open to the public, and so folks can come. And you can really invite, you'll discuss that at your first meeting. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All in favor? That's everyone in Eldred's on board.
Great job, Ann. Very
There
good.
was a proposed letter in that same file that we'd like to have go out to the Assemblywoman and the 3 senators. I hope you looked at it because I'd like to put all of your names on it.
I've seen it. I
Put my
approve it.
name on it, boldface,
Oh, boldface, okay. All right.
exclamation,
And
underline.
exclamation, okay.
Or we didn't get back.
Okay, all right. We'd like to get that out ASAP because my understanding is education's the topic at the legislature on Thursday.
Right.
So we'd like to get that out.
Exactly.
And it is 1 assemblywoman, but 3 senators because our district is chopped up.
Right.
And I would,
Are we going to also reach out to the person running, Diane, who's running for state senator? Yeah.
Dainsburg, was
Yeah,
it
did she get
Dainsburg?
this letter too?
She doesn't vote.
Later.
She doesn't vote,
Later.
no, but
She's just a
she
candidate.
gets
You,
copied in or?
we
Just
could-
invite her to the committee meetings.
Yeah.
Hey, that's
We
a
could
good
we
one.
could certainly send her a copy, but,
Along with the governor, Lipton, O'Mara.
so we're okay to send it once you get back to
I'll
us?
do it tonight.
Do it tonight.
Yeah,
Chris, you were all right? All right.
Chris is all right.
Myra looked at
Certainly
it
all right.
last night.
Yeah, without objection, certainly go ahead and send it out, put on our names. Do we need to sign it? You're going to sign it electronically?
Just have,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Just
fine.
have her tuck her names in.
That's good, that's fine. Anything else for the good of the group, for the good of the evening? There's the upcoming dates. Jennifer's very good about getting those out for the meetings coming up. Is there a HR committee tomorrow?
Yes,
meeting?
yes.
Yeah, there is HR tomorrow. And folks can show up for that. You're going to dig into something. I forget.
Sure.
There you go. So we'll so HR tomorrow for those who can make it. And anything else, we're all good. It's been a long night, so we appreciate everyone's efforts. And without objection, we're adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
It'll be till like 10:30, 11 at night.